My man Wilson.
How's it going? Wilson Morales, Black Film and TV. It's been a minute since I saw you last, which is always good
Yeah,
to see you working again.
good to
You
see you
know,
again, man.
so you got this script, and I think what did you have to work on? Your body movements, how to pretend you're 13 foot.
Pretty much. That was definitely a core part of it. A lot of people think I walked around talking to 6'5" guys like, hey, what's it like being that tall? But I didn't. I didn't at all. To me, Cootie wakes up every day. He's used to being 13 feet. He wakes up and his size isn't a shock to him. It doesn't blow his mind. He's so used to it. So once I realized, once I kind of figured out the physicality, I moved past that quick, and I focused on the nuances that made him who he is, and it's that naivete, it's that young, bright energy that he's been kept inside his home his whole life by parents who just wanted to protect him and wanted the best for him and not have him go out there and experience such evils. So he has this pretty beautiful image of the world. And so when he goes outside and that gets tainted a bit, I think there's something very relatable about that. How we feel like we know certain things, we feel like we're comfortable, and then immediately we feel uncomfortable and something approaches us that makes us feel like we are actually different. And so Cootie has to deal with being told he's different. But if you notice, Cootie doesn't feel different. Uh, you know.
Yeah, he doesn't feel different, but like you said, he wants to belong, and everybody wants to
Mhm.
belong whenever you enter an atmosphere of something new, whether you're on a film set, whether you're doing a
Mhm.
new project, you know, unless you're, even though you could be the number one on the call sheet, but at the same time, you're dealing with new people. So you want
Mhm.
everybody to get along because you have to establish that chemistry.
Yep.
How is the chemistry on a set working with Boots and the rest of the cast in order to make the series and make it flow?
Yeah, the chemistry was critical. That was probably one of the most important things that we needed on the set, especially because we shot forced perspective. Everything was so technical. So what that meant for me was at no point in any of my scenes did I get to look my scene partners in the eyes. I was performing to a green tape mark the entire time for every scene. So those moments before shooting and rehearsals and offset on the weekends, they were very critical for us. And Boots was very adamant about making sure the cast felt connected beyond what was in the script. So every Sunday we'd go to Boots' house and we go chill and hang out and watch a game or throw a little kickback, and that allowed us to really connect with each other. Like Brett, when I'd hear him on set, I wouldn't be able to see him, but I know exactly what face he's making when he's making those jokes because of how much time I spent with him and hearing him make those jokes in person. So the chemistry and understanding my scene partners, that was number one. And then as for me and Boots, it was incredible. He really brought me into this project in a way that I haven't been brought into a project before. He allowed me to executive produce. He allowed me to kind of work with him from the ground up on a lot of the different creative sides. So him having that trust in me uh, definitely gave me a lot of confidence and gave me a lot. And I just learned so much throughout the process.
I'm sure, obviously from Moonlight to When They See Us and now this,
Mm.
what goes into saying yes to the projects you take? I'm not saying that you're getting roles left and right, but I'm sure you're
Mhm.
being picky as far as what you want to do.
Yeah,
What goes into saying yes?
yeah, I'm incredibly picky. What it is a challenge. That's my favorite thing. I think projects like Moonlight and When They See Us, they don't come often. They are there's those projects that kind of happen once in a blue moon. So it isn't like I'll be able to always get on a project that will be so culturally massive. So if it's not going to be that, then it has to be a challenge in some sort of way. And for example, this project is the perfect example of a challenge. I knew it would be technically difficult. I knew that I'd have to do some mental gymnastics to be able to keep the performance tight, but also remember the technical things that are going on. And that's exactly what drew me in, was knowing that by the time I finished the project, I would have learned something. And it wasn't just to go up on set and be like, hey, this is what I'm an actor. Let me say some lines. For me, it's really about tapping in and stretching myself. And so hopefully I can continue to do that. And you can see that every time I'm on screen, I'm trying to do something that's some sort of a backflip.
It definitely sure is. Congrats on
Yeah.
the road. Congrats on the series. It's always good to see you. Keep it going. We're here to support. Take care of yourself.
Thanks, man.
My homie. Well, House of Blacksmith TV. Obviously, before we get started, I want to say by the time this airs, this would have been over. But congrats on the Tony nod. It's always good to see getting a nomination, but now we're here. Two theater actresses who I've seen in New York and on stage. You're on screen, at least on a small one. The roles are quite interesting, you know, without giving anything away. So I'm gonna start off with you, Kara. You know, what goes into the character you're playing, and how did you want to play it outside of the script? Did you want to add something of your own uniqueness to it?
Oh man, what a beautiful question. So I feel like Jones and how she moves in the world is wanting to be a force of change, but wanting to give people information, wanting to be like, yo, you don't know this? Let me just tell you about this thing. And she's meeting people where they are. And I feel like, as for myself, as Kara, you know, playing Jones, embodying this really incredible Black femme, I feel like the theatricality of Jones in this series speaks to my experience in the theater, and really feeling like you know, when we do plays, we feel like we're changing the world. And I feel like that's how Jones feels a lot of the time when she's, you know, going through these moments of storytelling, of really trying to let the people know what it is.
Olivia, obviously, I see you on stage, but, you know, as the episodes go on, at some point or another, you will be trending.
Oh.
You know, so without giving out any spoilers, so
okay,
how would you describe your character? Because there's a lot there that we're not aware of yet.
Yeah, I play Flora, and she's a girl in the world who works at Bing Bang Burger, and she runs into the 13-foot giant, aka Cootie, and they kind of they go through this growing process together, and they find something unique in the other that they haven't seen before. And I think for Flora specifically, she's never met anybody quite like him, and it really piques her interest and makes her feel seen in a way that she had never been seen before. So I think they kind of, without, I don't know, I don't know if that's really a spoiler, but they find this kind of sweetness, and you know, Cootie meets a group of friends, and they show him a side of the world, and he meets me, and I show him a different side of the world. So I think we kind of find that world together between the two of us in love.
Each of you have done your share of theater where you're working with one particular director and writer and showrunner, but when you're doing a series where it's different editors and writers, what are you getting from them as you did this series that helps you out as actresses, skill set wise? Karen?
Well, it's interesting because, you know, everything is shot out of sequence. And so you have different episodes, and you might shoot, you know, a part of one episode, and something major has happened in that episode. And then 3 weeks go by, and then you have to go back to that episode. So I feel like, you know, unlike the theater and kind of going cohesively or rehearsing scene to scene, it's about really piecing together the episode as it is, right? And also thinking about the story, how it unfolds. So it kind of takes a lot of you really to put that in. And then you also have Boots, who was directing every single episode, and it's his story. So, you know, he's there to help us navigate the world in those moments.
Right. It truly felt like Boots and all the writers. There's so many very talented theater in New York, you know, writers that are a part of the show. That they really created a language and a world, and we're all, you know, stepping into. We did have some bit of a rehearsal process, and it wasn't really kind of hammering out scene by scene by scene, but really just a lot of conversation. And I felt like we're learning a new language with this show, and Boots kind of was the key to that language. So we really connect with him, and the importance of having him on set every day directing, but also just for an actor, like outside of directing, us being able to like hang out at his house, and he feed us, and he show us music, and Kara and Brett dance. You know, like, or just being able to explore, be like, I didn't know that you used to dance, Olivia. I'm gonna throw that in there, or maybe we can make a dance sequence when you're doing your little thing. So it was just, it was unlike any other experience, having Boots kind of just really open up all aspects of our individual creativity and poured into something that he had made so full already.
Yeah, it's like a magic science.
Yeah,
it's like a magic science gumbo.
Yes,
you know, off screen, and then like all of that is right there on screen.
Yeah.
Congrats on the roles. Congrats on the series. Obviously, it's good to see that a bigger audience will get to see you guys outside of what. If you don't live in New York, they don't really know so much about you. But now they'll do, at least through this spectrum. So congrats. I'm sure I'll see you again somewhere soon.
Yes. Yes, Wilson. Love you, Wilson.
Bye.
Take care.
Wilson Morales from Black for Me TV. Hey, Carmen, how's it going?
Good to see you. Thank you.
Good. You know, obviously it's not that often we see you play different roles, but we do. You know, obviously you play opposite Mike Epps in a not so much comedic role that we have you in, but what would it to say yes to taking on this project and working with Boots Riley?
Well, I worked with Boots by workshopping Sorry to Bother You. So we did that out in Utah at Sundance Directors Lab a few years earlier. So I knew what his sort of vibe was going to be. And I know then from the actual debut of his first film that he delivered on his promise of being like highly inventive, super creative, and he writes incredibly well. So even though I didn't see a script for this show, I knew I wanted to be on board when he asked me, because I knew it was going to be risk-taking and brave and bold and a little bit nuts, and it ended up being all of those things and a lot of fun as well. So it was like, of course I'm going to do it.
One thing you won't get from Boots is normal. You're not going to get complete ABC, you know? And so you did get the script, and you find out that you're playing the parent to a 13-foot individual. What was your initial thoughts?
I mean, like, I just love the fact that he just is going to be completely out there with the visual of that. Like, I could immediately imagine that would look incredible. How he was going to pull it off was part of the mystery, and like that then became a great journey in itself, like working with puppets that were like 13 foot tall, and then working with like a small version of me, and then working with forced perspective and stop motion and all these like old school techniques that really do feel different on the screen to just plain old CGI. And we use some of that too, but I love the fact that he's mashed it all up together, and it's like a real homage maybe to his own childhood and what he grew up watching. It's definitely something that I grew up watching, with like Sinbad by Harryhausen, and like they're just like things that I grew up, that no one does that stuff anymore. And it was just such a treat to be part of a world that was just that inventive.
And you're working with Mike Epps, you know, and this is a Mike Epps where we don't see him being so all out funny, but he's kind of resigned. You know, he's going with what he has to work with. So, but did he have any funny moments off screen?
I mean, Mike's like always improvising and figuring stuff out. The funniest thing about Mike is he couldn't remember his lines ever. So like he was just all up he was like, it was like working with like a very old man. That you're just having to sort of like tease, like sort of like edge along, like, come on, you could do it. But he'll hate me for saying that, I'm sure, but it's true. That was actually very funny, because then he would go into improvisation, right? Because he was like, I don't know what I'm meant to really be saying, so let me just take it like off the page. That's probably when he's at his best. So that was a lot of fun to enjoy and to like get to play with. It was the whole thing was just super fun. And like, Brett Gray is incredibly funny. There's like the younger actors as well bring their own like energy and their own vibe, which is just really, really just electric. So yeah, really good stuff.
Both you and Jharrel have worked with Ava, and now you're working with Boots, and you've done plenty of other projects. On this particular series, is there anything new that you got skill set wise as an actress that you can probably take on to whatever projects you do next?
I mean, I think something that I had to work on in this, I don't know if I'll be able to use it in future projects, maybe if I do CGI kind of stuff, but working with like a 13-foot puppet and having to find the emotion between you and the puppet, even though the puppet is just looking back at you and has no emotion in it, like, you know, that having to figure out how to make a scene work when that's all you're playing against, that was brand new for me, and that was a challenge. And I can imagine there would be scenarios where I'd have to figure out how to like be working against a green screen or with like just, you know, something like imagined in front of me. I haven't really done that too much yet. But yeah, that was one skill I would say for sure.
I'm sure at some point does a, all these muscle memory will come back when something new comes up. He goes, I remember I did this one thing. Let me work it from there. It's always see you. It's good performance, good series. Keep it going. We'll talk down the road.
Thanks so much. See you soon.
Take care. Wilson Morales from Black Women TV. Hey, folks, how's it going?
What's up?
The show is zany. It's crazy, but it's you keep watching it to see where it's going to play out. And for you guys, obviously you're playing the buddies of Cootie. What was saying yes to take me on this role and working with Boots Riley?
I mean, there were no reasons to say no. There were no no's. It was pretty easy. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Allius, so how would you describe the character you're playing? And every time an actor takes on a role, I like to think there's a little bit of themselves in the character they're playing. So how would you say, you're close, for you, Allius, to how would you say you relate to the character you're playing?
Man, I think we relate. I find similar qualities, maybe not at this point in my life, but I will tell you this, Scat, in relation to myself, it pushed me to sort of look back at that chapter of my life, and kind of reflect on a time where I wasn't so like purpose oriented and trying to, figure out what, Scat is kind of just this free spirit, and he likes what he likes, and he's not necessarily the most goal-oriented, human being, but he's somebody that is definitely important in the friend group. He grounds everyone, and he's just kind of, I feel like without Scat, everything would be all about the serious stuff. Jones being like, oh, the activism, and Felix stressing about, his job I think, yeah, Scat is that element of the friend group that's sort of just like, oh, like it is okay to kind of just like be present and watch cartoons,
What about you, Brett? Obviously, how do you relate to the character? And obviously you're working again with Jharrel, so how was that feeling like? Was it easy chemistry to be back on scene?
100%. It was completely easy, so seamless. Everybody here, like I think we built a friendship and a sort of like a familial relationship based upon mutual respect and admiration with everybody. And to your other point, I love Felix. Like I relate to him so much. I remember when, my mom had a minivan and it didn't have a handle on the right side, and I would drive it all around with all my friends just packed in the minivan. Sometimes we'd just be sitting in the car just to be not in the house or just to be with each other. And so, I think Felix reminds me of a time where I wasn't thinking so much and trying to wrestle life to the ground. And I think these guys, they encourage you to be yourself and to just sort of be present, like Allius just said, and not necessarily have so much to worry about other than just the next thing that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Cootie is one of those individuals that's like ostracized until he meets you guys, at least the character wise. Have you in your life, when you hanging out with the group, nobody's equal. There's always somebody that's kind of like behind, that you have to kind of like bring him in. Were you that in the group, or did you see yourself bringing somebody else into the group?
It varied, definitely. At least for me, maybe sometimes in some chapters of life, I was a person who was, like behind, and maybe at other points I was a person kind of like, okay. But I think being the person that is, at one point that was behind, you have a lot of empathy, and a lot of room for other people who have those qualities that you recognize. And you're like, oh, I remember when I was, like that, or I was super shy, or I didn't know what this was or whatever. And it's kind of okay to be that. Let me pull this other person, like in and kind of, show them that it's okay.
Totally. I think
Guys,
any good.
Dad.
I was going to say, I just think any good friend group is about balance. It's about where one may lack, the others can make up for. We can pull it out of each other and greater through our weaknesses, strengthen each other. So that's what I was going to add.
We're mirrors.
Well, I'm gonna steal that. Congratulations on the roles. Congrats on the series. Let's keep it going. I'll talk to you guys down the road. Take care.
Thank you, Wilson.
Wilson Morales from Black Film TV. Michael, how did this get greenlit?
Pleasure to meet you, Wilson. People were into it, I saw Sorry to Bother You at Sundance and was, like a lot of people, blown away by the film. I'd never seen anything like it. I thought Boots was immediately one of the most original visionary artists I'd ever come across. So I chased him hard and was like, you should do a show. And he said yes. We made a development deal. And then the first idea he pitched was a show about 13-foot tall young man who leaves his house for the first time on his 19th birthday. I was blown away inspired by it. My team was, and we worked on, developed the script and pitch for a while. And when we went to market, people flipped out for it. This was, it's a hard sell when you say the one-liner, but when you bring it out with Boots Riley, that script was incredible. His vision for the show was infectious. We put on a show. He put on a show. He was playing a Philip Glass score. He had already, it was early pandemic days. On Zoom, he showed the forced perspective with his iPhone. It was an incredible show. And frankly, all the networks went nuts for it. So Amazon went the most insane for it, and away we went.
It's a mix of drama and there's comedy in there. How do you find a balance in terms of trying to put that together while still trying to put together a storyline that we can say to explain what the show's about?
I think for Boots, he's always mindful of, in all of the different, all the eccentricities of his aesthetic, right? All the different ideas, different worlds, different sensibilities he'll introduce. There's a core idea here. There's a simple idea around a young man's coming of age story, right? And so every episode, you're trying to keep the thread on what's the emotional core of it? What's happening emotionally that's actually relatable and universal and accessible? And then on top of that, then you can place every new idea around it, right? So when it's time for Cootie to lose his virginity, there's a lot about that that's maybe many people have experienced, but then many things that no one's ever experienced before, right? So you're looking at, first date, first community meeting, first political, a birth of consciousness, Cootie is not political in the beginning, right? And the world kind of makes him be political, right? But then he has to develop his own voice in it. So each piece of that, there's something pretty real and deep and profound, right? As profound as in any serious drama. But the tone is joyous, raucous, funny, eccentric. And that's very intentional. That's both who Boots is. He's in touch with his inner child, right? But the kind of politics of the show is like, it's a world without rules. And he's trying, and so you get to enjoy that as a viewer, but that's the world he also wants you to see as possible.
At the end of the day, I always say every time a new product comes out, there's so much glut in the market now. Was it streaming, cable, network? Everybody's fighting for an audience. What's going to get an audience to watch this show? Because it doesn't matter what the reviews may be. So you just got to get people to watch it, to talk about it, hopefully to watch the next episode, an episode after that.
I think it's what you should tune in for is, well, I'll be basic: brilliant writing, brilliant acting, visionary visuals, right? A visual experience like you've never seen before. It's fundamentally a sweet, hilarious, eccentric, raucous comedy about a young man and his adventures with his friends. They battle. The hero of the piece, in air quotes, is actually the villain of the piece. If you're a lover of comic book fare, this speaks to that. It just flips it on its head, right? So it takes a lot of stories that are in our world, and you get to experience them just in a way you've never seen before. So it's consciousness expanding. It's like nothing else. So the reason to tune into this is, in a world of 500 shows, 499 of them are somewhat similar. I promise you, there is nothing like this. And if you want a mind-blowing experience like you've never had before, tune into I'm a Virgo.
Congrats on the series. Let's see where it goes. I'll be tuning in. Take care.
Thank you, Wilson. Appreciate it.